Hey everybody. So we're going to be talking electric vehicles, gas prices, March Madness, streaming wars today. I'm doing something a little different. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you may want to go check out the video version that's up on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube and you haven't already listened to the podcast or subscribed, go ahead and check that out as well, because I've got a bunch of different episodes, interviews, a lot of different topics we cover. But however you're listening or watching this, I'm doing something a little bit different. A few weeks ago, I sat down with my buddy Luke Clayton, who does Must Increase Media and the Connection Culture podcast. And I was a guest on his podcast, and he said, let's talk about the topics that you put out on your Money Minute email each month. So if I know many of you are already subscribed, but for those that aren't, the Money Minute is a monthly newsletter. It's a roundup of some of the most interesting articles and posts from the month, and just sort of a quick way for you to scroll, skim, see what interests you, and read an article or two or see a post. And I like sharing those each month. And so I thought, yeah, that's great, because these are topics that are of interest to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't put them in the email. And so we just kind of talked about them. And I thought, you know what? I probably should do this just on the podcast, on the Facebook page, just give you a video recap of some of the most interesting news from the month. So here we go. Let's jump into it. If you're already subscribed to the Money Minute email, you're going to see these in your inbox today. If you want to get subscribed, go to Facebook. There's a link there. Or you can go to nateskelly.com. That's my website. And there'll be a pop-up there where you can put your email in and get that monthly update each month. But 4 of the top articles that I wanted to share, things that I found really interesting this month. Let's start with electric vehicles. So I've wondered this before. I mean, right now, electric vehicles are just still a small slice of the vehicles that are on the road. Almost everybody's still using gasoline. But I thought, what happens to gas stations when that changes? What happens when half or more of the vehicles are electric? Will gas stations be able to position themselves to keep doing business the way they do it? Because the nature of charging your electric vehicle is different than getting gas. Getting gas is quick. And by the way, I put an article on the Money Minute not too long ago, a couple months ago, about how gas stations, they don't even really make their money from gas. It's pretty surprising when you go through the numbers, but they make their money off of sales inside the store. Cigarettes and lottery tickets and drinks and snacks. I mean, that's where they make their money. So the whole system is designed to get people in with the gasoline, get them to your location, and then get them inside to where they'll spend money on the stuff where we can actually make a profit. Now, of course, the obvious solution is, well, just put in chargers instead of gas pumps, and there you go. Problem is, the charging takes a lot longer. It's a little bit of a different experience. Now, there's the superchargers. I think Tesla, they can do 50% charge in like 15 minutes. But a full charge is going to take closer to an hour. So do people really want to hang out at the mini mart for an hour? Now, maybe some people do. But Starbucks, and this is really interesting to me, so the first article is about how Starbucks is trying to position themselves as the gas station of the future for electric vehicles. Makes total sense. They're starting to put in these Volvo charging stations at some of their Starbucks locations. So that way, when somebody's out and about and they need a charge for their vehicle, go to Starbucks. You're going to be there for 20, 30 minutes at least, probably. So charge your car, go inside, get a coffee, hang out for a little bit. It's a win-win. And it's a big win for Starbucks. So I'm interested to see if this will pan out for them. Will that be the future, to where as more and more people drive electric vehicles, we're not going to gas stations, but we're going to coffee shops, and we're going to bookstores. We're going to places where you can kind of hang out and chill for a little bit and be in a relaxing environment while you wait for your car to charge. Will other companies try to get into this space, and will that look different in 10 or 15 years? It's interesting to think about. So that was the first thing that caught my eye. Number 2, speaking of gas prices, we've been having a lot of pain at the pump, and episode 58 I put out a couple weeks ago. A lot of engagement with that. A lot of people were interested to find out about gas prices and Russia and energy independence. And what are we paying for at the pump? Part of what we're paying for is taxes. Every state has a state gas tax, and then there's a federal gas tax as well that's 18 cents. So a few states have been talking about this, and 3 states have already pulled the trigger on it. Maryland, Connecticut, and Georgia have all temporarily suspended their gas taxes. So that way the prices at the pump can fall, and people aren't feeling as much pain there. There's also a bill in Congress to temporarily lift the federal gas tax, which is about 18 cents a gallon. So will that help? Yeah, for sure. I don't think that's going to get us back to where gas prices were a couple of years ago, but every little bit helps at this point. So the question is, will your state be suspending their gas taxes temporarily? There's a list of about 20, so you can read that article, and it's got a bunch that are in some stage of considering it, and so maybe you could see gas prices near you fall in pretty short order if that were to be the case. So gas prices, electric vehicles. Another one that caught my eye this month is March Madness. I love sports, love the March Madness college basketball tournament. I didn't realize how big of a moneymaker it was. There was a great article I found that really broke down, okay, how much money do they really make off of March Madness? And the NCAA makes a killing. It's crazy. As far as like sports playoffs go, NFL is number one. NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl are king. But number two is the NCAA March Madness tournament. The advertising revenue, the broadcasting deal, NCAA makes almost all of their money just off of March Madness alone, and it does a great job breaking down kind of the economics of that. And then the last article that's there is one on the streaming wars as they continue to rage. What's interesting to me is, it used to be the day where, of course, everybody had cable, and it was just this bundle of all these different content providers for one price a month, and here you go, you get this whole lineup. And then people were like, I hate this. I only watch 4 or 5 channels. What if I could just buy the channels I want? And then along came streaming. You had Netflix and Disney Plus now, and Hulu and Amazon Prime, and so you got all these options out there, and it's a little bit overwhelming, and they're constantly competing with each other for market share and getting subscribers. So right now, Netflix is king, Disney Plus is catching up, Amazon Prime is lagging behind, but they've made some big moves recently to try to catch up. Number one, they're doing that Lord of the Rings series that's coming out in the fall, and they've put in billions of dollars, or over $1 billion, and maybe even more by the time it's all said and done, which is just astronomical for any kind of movie or show. But they recently just closed a deal a few days ago to buy MGM Studios, which MGM, of course, has done a lot of different movies. They've done the Rocky series and James Bond. They have all these different movies and shows that are under their umbrella. So I would expect that pretty soon Amazon Prime is going to start rolling out some of those movies and shows onto their service. And they're really making a strong play to try to get subscribers and compete in that space. So that'll be interesting. Just a quick final wrap up from the Money Minute email. There's a interesting graphic to show how strong your password is. How long would it take a hacker to figure out your password based on the characters, numbers, letters? It's interesting, and the results might actually surprise you for what makes for a secure password. And then there's another graphic there about oil breakdown by country. One of the things that I was really interested in looking at is, why can't we just produce our own oil and use our own oil here in the United States? Like, why don't we just become energy independent? The answer to that question is it's very complicated. So that was part of that episode 58 on the podcast, deep dive, just really trying to explore all of that. There's an interesting graphic that breaks down the oil production by country. And I think you'll find that interesting where the U.S. is in relation to some of the other countries. So there's your breakdown. I hope you'll check out the podcast if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, or vice versa if you're listening to this on the podcast. And if you want to sign up for the Money Minute emails, go to Facebook, click the link there, or go to nateskelly.com and you can sign up there. So until next month, I'll come back to you with an April roundup. And until then, I'll see you on the next episode.